Morning, everyone. I'm Marjorie Winters from the Open Space Subcommittee Working Group, and I'm here with Susan Messina, Tom Dabrowski, Tom Hazel, and let's see. Well, someone else has just gone. So, all right. So we're here, and so today we're working on the agricultural leasing practices policies for the town. And Susan, you had been at the meetings previously with Mike Glidden, and you had been talking to the farmers. So what's your update?
Yeah, so
do we want to do the minutes first? Do we want to do the minutes of the last meeting? I think that's on the agenda. Let me get the agenda.
I think the minutes are from the full open space meeting, not from the subcommittee.
Did we have minutes from the subcommittee?
No, it is September 15th, Susan. So that was a subcommittee meeting.
Oh, okay. I didn't.
That's in the agenda packet.
All right.
It's just reviewing to see if there's anything in those minutes that you feel is incorrect, or if everything's good, then you're just going to acknowledge that fact.
Okay, I apologize. I thought we were going to be reviewing those minutes at the open space meeting, so I kind of got confused between this subcommittee meeting and the open space meeting.
You
could
put
those off till next time.
Let's table these minutes. We don't is there a quorum for a subcommittee? Do we need?
There's 3 of you typically. I don't know the answer to that question.
All right. Rather than have a motion, why don't we just table these until the next
That's fine.
All right.
You did have the natural area stewardship policy as the first thing on your agenda. I don't know if you want to talk to that or put that off until after the ag lease, but I think it's important, since we've already started that with the Open Space Committee and the Board of Selectmen is aware of it. I think it's good to try to tie that up if we can, or work toward a finish on that.
Yeah, I think we were kind of done with that. We just I was just looking over the policy document to, just to make sure there wasn't anything critical in the abridged version from the full version. And I thought that was going to be for the full open space meeting. Also, I didn't realize that was for this subcommittee meeting.
I believe the work group was asked to add any additional properties, if there were any at this time before it goes to a final version.
Right.
That's one of the notes on here. So currently we had, Belden Forest, Onion Mountain, Stratton Brook, and Ethel Walker Woods. I believe in discussion we did identify a 5th property, and I'm drawing a blank on which one that was.
We actually had 3 others, Tom. Okay. One, it doesn't have a name, but it's on the property that's like 20 acres behind that house on Onion Mountain that the town owns on
behind Sugarloaf Cut.
Right. Yes. So just that ridge there, would make sense. The other one is the Darlington property it's just kind of like a, natural area off of whatever is there, West Street or Farms Village Road, near the high school, adjacent to Stratton Brook Park. It's kind of in a gully there. And then the other one is the one, and I don't know the name of it, but it's on the east side of town. It's like a strip kind of along the Metacomet there.
Is it the one off of Mountain Road on the right?
I think so, by Terrafil up there. It's like a north-south strip, kind of.
There's a few properties up there. There's 2. If you're looking on it on the Bloomfield East Granby side of the water tower along Mountain Road that goes up along, I believe that one. You start to get into state property up there too. But I believe we have the strip right off of. If you go to the end of Mountain Road and go up from there, it's a heavily wooded area. Eventually you would lead up to the Metacomet Trail and to the water tower area. But the one off of Mountain Road is heavily wooded. I see no reason that we would do anything
Yeah.
there. I mean, we're monitoring the trails that are up there. We've taken out some ramps that were put in there by some mountain bikers and that kind of thing. But we're monitoring it. It's nothing. No management is going on up there at this point, or would be planned up there.
So given the difficulty we're having with naming these properties, can the town develop a map for these properties? So that
we do.
Yeah.
It's in that open space inventory that was developed in 2015. If we had access to it right this very second, we could pull up that map. I don't have anything, but I can look that up.
But I'm saying to attach to this natural stewardship policy, if we could attach the map
of the individual properties, sure, we could do that.
Yeah.
We could do that.
Or I was thinking maybe we could just color them differently eventually once we kind of finalize this. We could just put those in a different color, and that would help to distinguish them from the areas that we are trying to, have a more hands-on approach.
No, that's what I was figuring. The map would have them highlighted as these, this category.
Yep. Okay.
Okay. Because I know we've been through this discussion several times about where they are, and I think the map would really help.
Yeah.
I thought the name starts with an S, but I don't remember what. I know.
The minutes don't really reflect the name, so.
Yeah. So.
Okay, so that's good. So then I think if we just revise that natural area stewardship policy to just reflect those 3 additional properties and maybe add those maps as the attachment to that, representing those properties.
Yeah.
And then the information, I believe we were gonna, a lot of the work that Susan had put in to kind of giving context to the natural area stewardship policy. I think we were going to reference that as something on the Open Space Committee website, or is it going to be referenced? Is that okay? Susan's nodding. Okay, I thought that's what we were going to do.
Yeah, I think it would be good not only to put the policy, but also put the full document that has the links and references and things, so people can find out more information. Because excuse me just a second, let me find my printout of the policy document. Hang on a second. But anyway, I thought that would give people a little bit more information and they can see, what it's about. If we could put that on the open space website, I think that would be great. And then we can start to load up these other policies as we get them passed, and kind of people can kind of look at the puzzle pieces in the big picture. Okay.
All right. So that one's pretty much done then? That's as far as the subcommittee's done, we're done. Okay.
I think that was the only recommended change.
Yeah. So then the next item is the model agricultural RFP and lease. And that's going to be a little difficult without some of the background of where we are. But there are some things that, Susan, you wanted to discuss. You wanted to share what the farmers had said and what you thought might be good policies. I know I had been looking at the Connecticut farming, groups about the preservation of farmland and their recommendations for leasing. Right.
So I guess, being a Grange member and all that kind of stuff, I want to make it as, and really feeling like keeping our local farmers farming is just a critical piece of the puzzle. I wanted to make sure that the farmers aren't caught by surprise by these changes, because I think it's been kind of a little bit, just very simple terms so far. So I don't want it to seem onerous or suddenly put people into, why is this happening kind of thing. So I think the more farmer friendly we can make it, the better. And the farmer friendly aspects of it would be to, have a lease that's, longer term, which is what we've talked about, having 5 years, having the farmer be able to get out of the lease without any kind of a penalty, which I think is fine. We could always find someone else to lease it. Having minimal paperwork and red tape, because, computers and paperwork and all that kind of stuff, it's just, that just puts a burden, especially if you're someone who is trying to certify your farm is organic or whatever. There's just a lot of paperwork stuff. So I think if we can keep the actual, maybe like the policy, which as you can see, I've scribbled on, if we can keep the main form for the farmers super simple, and then the other stuff would be like the appendices that they don't, simple, stuff, and then just give them a heads up like, hey, there's no big change in what's happening. We're just trying to streamline this, extend the terms, which would be better, for you being able to take care of the land, and let them know that we're also open to, I also asked them what would be helpful for you. And I didn't get any super specifics except for like, limit my hassles.
And then we also have, last time we discussed, just drop that. Last time we discussed the fact that the leases had been approved by the town engineer, but we were looking to think that the open space might be a better group to review the leases.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about that and we hadn't talked about that, but I think that makes a lot of sense. I don't care who it goes through, but it might make sense to go through open space.
Yeah. And also as far as the leases, I know some of the towns had 5-year rolling leases. So the farmers always knew that they had at least 5 years out in the future, because that was one of the biggest issues for the farmers, that they need long enough times, especially if they're going to be doing some of the organic practices, that they need to know that their soil improvement practices, they would benefit from them in the future. So I like the idea of the 5-year rolling lease. All right.
Okay. I don't see any reason not to do that.
No. And one of the recommendations in the guidance book that I looked at, they said some of the newer farmers, you could, if they haven't got a track record of the farm, you can give them a sort of a provisional 1 or 2 year lease, to see whether they like doing it. And then they can go into a 5-year lease if it's someone, who's just really starting off in the industry. I don't know how, that would work.
I would think if the lease is not technical to break, that signing a 5-year with very little hooks in it should be sufficient for someone who's just starting out. So after 2 years, if they say this isn't working,
that should cover it.
Easy
that should cover
it. We don't have multiple applications.
Good.
Trying to figure out who wants what, just one place.
Yeah.
That'd be good.
And then that starting person also feels like they have the 5 years to really commit to it and make the investment in it.
Yeah, that sounds good. Is there anything else? The documents I sent this just out this morning, they had some suggestions for organic practice, but I don't think they need to be certified organic. That would be, because that is a headache to do that.
Yeah.
And there might be a program for some particular cases.
Yeah, we had talked about kind of a preference for organic, farmers pledge, transition to organic, and generally, you made a whole list, Marjorie, of kind of healthy farming practices. So I think that's already kind of what has been our preference or whatever for who we've been leasing but I think it would be good to kind of formalize that. And I know that there was an issue about, I don't know if it was the Triangle or whatever piece of land we were going to rent a bunch of years ago, and they took bids for the lease, and there was a tiny, like a few $100s difference between an organic farmer who'd been in town for decades who was going to farm it versus someone who was out of town, who was a conventional farmer and used a lot of chemicals. And the decision was we were going to give it to the conventional farmer because it was a few $100s more. And so there was kind of a big uproar about that. And so I think that making it clear what our preference is, enable decision-making to go to prioritize that over, we're not really making a lot of money on these farm leases. So we should be able to kind of make those kind of decisions.
Yeah, and I think it makes it easier for the applicant to who knows what's being required.
Exactly.
So a conventional farmer may not find that this is land that they want to lease. All right. So do we want to put this off until the next subcommittee to work on it? I know I just sent out something. Susan's been working on things. We haven't gotten a chance to really work together on that. Because we haven't got a lease form because we want.
No, I'm looking over what you sent out, Marjorie, and the information is really good, but it's not. Yeah, I mean, somebody would have to put it in policy form, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe we can find the current lease for the town, and we actually got a bunch. I have a whole big stack of stuff. Lease examples from other towns. Also in my other room, my room of papers. But so that was where we were thinking, maybe we should table dealing with that for today, because I don't want to start from scratch and reinvent the wheel. We could, I think our lease form is pretty simple. We might be able to just adjust that with the term and all that, and then maybe tack Marjorie's on the back and see if there's anything we want to add from the other documents that we got.
Yeah, because I'm looking at some of the models that were sent from other towns. They're pretty conventional as far as the information they're looking for, so we can see if there's any gaps, any misses, any hits that were a little bit better or overreaching, and clean it up that way.
Yeah. The basic thing that we started with was we wanted to look at all the other things and just kind of pull the best bits from each one to kind of make ours as best as it could be.
So who's going to take on that task? Is that funny? Wait a minute. In my thing, you're pointing to yourself, Susan.
Yeah, that's what she is in mine too.
I was pointing to someone named Tom, since everyone is named Tom except for me and Marjorie.
That's right. It's good thing we have a little diversity here.
That's why I was like.
Well, if you could find,
if you can find our lease and then see if you've got experience with the other town's leases, if you could pull that together, we'd be almost there.
Yeah, if you could send that out, Marjorie and I could kind of something together and then bring it to the full. We could have another subcommittee meeting or bring it to the full, and if there's something unusual. Or we could kind of cobble it together and bring it to the full Open Space Commission for consideration. Would that make sense?
Yeah, put together a draft for consideration. I think we could all review that. It's a pretty simple document.
Yeah.
So you can send us some things, and then we can discuss it between us. Well, we could back and see where we go. Will you have time to do that? No.
I got to talk to Mike about where we have that lease copy, and then we can get all those documents.
Yeah.
And that's something where if we could scan that out and everybody could take a look at it.
That'd be good.
And I think our leases are coming due somehow at some point.
January?
One that's
currently open. That he's notified us he's not coming back. So there is some urgency to try to get something tied up in December so that it can get out and approved, and we can fill that space.
And when do the leases usually end? Is it December or is it January or?
I'm not familiar with them enough to know for sure. I just know that we've received notice from one particular person who's notified us that he's not returning.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I think it is like December, January, February time, something like that. So it's coming up.
Yeah. All right.
It'll be great. We'll be able to check another item off our list if we get this done.
That'd be good. All right. Then the next one is the criteria for acquisition of open space. We haven't been working on that one.
No, I think, these are items that have the work group has, I guess, agreed to take a look at. You don't have to tackle everything at one time. You have the ability to table these items to another session.
All right, well, I think that one will definitely be tabled to another time. But
Yeah.
I noticed on the schedule, we don't have any discussion about, last time I'd been asked, or I'd volunteered to do something on the mowing practices in town, and I cobbled something together, a little guidance document.
Yeah, I saw it. I read it this morning. Yeah, I think it's great. We could certainly discuss that. We could just add it to the agenda in place. I don't think we're going to really get to open space and maybe the showcase garden. That may not be the time for that today, unless Susan's prepared. But but yeah, let's talk about the mowing practices, because now is a good time to do that.
Yeah.
I thought the information that you sent out was helpful. It'll certainly be helpful to Orlando and I. I think that the next thing we need to do, though, is we need to identify those properties that where the committee would like to see these practices put in place. Just quickly glancing through it, Marjorie, where they talk about mowing in late winter, spring, it becomes problematic. Those areas are really wet, to be honest with you.
That's it.
Many of them are, not everyone, but many of them are. And the last thing you want to see is a tractor or something, or a piece of our equipment.
Well, that's the thing. Each site is different, and it does say I'm just cobbling it from other things, but they say if it's impossible, you can't do it. And it would also depend on the year, but you won't know that ahead of time. Mowing, and some of these areas don't have to be mowed every year; they can be mowed in sections, which is another good way of doing it. What
we tried to do this year is we tried to put off the triangle till after the first frost. He didn't get out there till we had, I think, one. That wasn't a first frost. And then he did Case Circle a little earlier than I would have liked, but the idea again was to do that one after the first frost. The one behind St. Albans was again supposed to be after the first frost, but I think he got to that one after he did the triangle, I believe. I could be mistaken, but the other parcels where you think would be the pollinators, we should talk about what we want to do those. Is that the meadow? Are you thinking the meadow at Laurel Lane and Great Pond for a pollinator area?
Well, I'm thinking of a lot of places in town, but they're
right. I'm sure.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
but the whole idea, that's where I think we need the mapping. We need to identify those areas that we want to reserve for grassland. And they require that different management strategy than the meadows do. So, and they have to be like 25 acres circular or square. So right off the bat, which ones fit that category. And I would think that's where GIS would come in handy. What do we have that would fit that criteria, and manage those for the grassland birds, and the other ones you manage for the pollinators, the smaller parcel. So I'm not sure how. If we can do that, that would be, I think, the very first step, because you have to know which ones you're going to manage and how. And as far as like mowing the whole thing, like the triangle, shouldn't really be mowed. It should be mowed, like, even if you mowed in strips, half of it 1 year, and next year mow the other strip, the other strips. If you can, you might have to somehow mark off where you're going to mow, but you don't have to mow the whole thing, because the idea with some of the pollinator plants is that the insects winter over in the plants, and when you mow them, you wipe them out. So so that would cut the mowing in half at any rate. And I think that's one of the ideas, is to mow less frequently. And then the only reason for the mowing is to keep down those woody plants.
Right. Yep.
Yeah.
I agree.
But those are the the considerations, and it might be that if there's a site that's usually dry and not a problem in the spring, you can mow that in the spring, and it might shift some of the maintenance issues to different times of the year. Just I think those are things that need to be we can start considering.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'll share, if you don't mind. I'll share this with Orlando, who couldn't be on the call today.
The more detailed the links are the more detailed. I just cobbled the stuff, paste and cut from those documents. They've got more specific information in those.
Okay.
I like
No,
the one
this
about how to start a meadow too. They had really good ones about how to start one.
I got to that one. Oh yeah, I didn't read that. I didn't get to the links. I
That's
only
a
read
That's a
the
good one.
document.
Yeah. No, well, they only came out a couple minutes ago. I mean, what
No,
the
I
heck?
know.
You did well. You did well. So, we can, people can have some time to look at them over. We can talk about that next time and see what else we want to add or subtract or whatever. But the nice thing is that there are some lovely opportunities that we have in town, I think, to mow less frequently. And that would, we just need to identify them.
Okay. Would it be helpful to send you guys a link to the open space inventory to look it over before next time? That is on the Open Space Committee's webpage, just so you know. But we could send the link out.
Yes, please.
It is included in the master plan link too, but that's a huge document, and you're gonna have to scroll through a lot of pages to get to it. But there is a direct link to the open space inventory on the with the mapping on the Open Space Committee's page.
With the GIS databases and layers, would it be possible to query? Is it possible to query those databases and say, what areas are, over 25 acres that are in? Does it call out what are in grassland areas or non-forested?
I don't know if that layer is there. I know that with the switch to a new permitting system in the building department, that permitting system also has a GIS that has other layers on it from Yukon and other open, more agriculturally sensitive groups that actually add layers to these things. So we can certainly, if it's not there, look at that one. The hardest thing I found with a lot of these properties is they're addressless. So it just gives Mountain Road, and it doesn't have an address. So kind of trying to update that and maybe get them some kind of parcel IDs so that it can be queried in that way. The layer gets easier to create. I know that we do use a vendor for our GIS to set some of this stuff up. So that's something to start looking into and trying to find a way to make parcel identifications for the properties. It may be agriculture, open space, pollinator, get our tiers set so that we can have different colors or something on there so it's easily identifiable on a map.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because the next one we Susan was talking about was the shrubland, and there's a whole management routine plan for those, but we have to identify where they are and how we want to manage them. So that's the real key right now, I think, is getting the maps, identifying which areas we want to manage for what.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because it's no good having a plan for something if we don't know where to implement it.
Yeah, Susan.
I just wanted to mention that when I tried to, look at all of this on the open space, overall thing, the good thing is the properties are color coded in terms of what's town land. So, if you're looking at pieces that are, let's say 25 acres or over, even 10 acres is a meaningful habitat size, depending on the species. You can kind of, we all know, okay, that's Simsbury Farms, that's Curtis, that's, so I found it easy to just look for the blocks that are town stuff and just be like, okay, I know that's this, I know that's this. And so I think, Marjorie, we could go over that pretty easily and pick out which are the properties,
Well, there's certainly low hanging fruit right now. That's certainly
right. That's what I think also. It's just the easiest thing to do is just identify the obvious places.
Yeah.
No reason why we can't add properties or subtract them or change or whatever. But just pick the obvious ones.
Yeah. But it's so much easier if you already know, if we have the layers that say this is already currently in a grassland meadow form, to go to that, to that area. I'm just trying to say how we can, going forward, use this.
I think that layer should be created as a result of this process. That's probably what will happen.
Yeah. So that would make it easier for town. All right. So I'm currently working on just the similar thing for the shrubland management. So I'll send that off probably in the next day or two. And we can look at that and bounce ideas off each other. let's see, the next thing is the Sustainable CT Grant for Pollinator Pathway Showcase Garden. Do we have anything? I don't have anything on that.
No, nothing more on that.
Oh, and here's the 2021 regular meeting schedule. I like that because I'm never knowing when these meetings are. So do we have a schedule?
I believe it's going to be at the end of your.
Let me see.
Wait. No, it is not. It's not in the packet.
Ah,
That should be up to the full Open Space Commission, not up to us. I mean, fine if we said it, but.
yeah, no.
Yeah, I don't see it in your packet. There's no suggested dates, so we can typically what they like to. Yeah, that's.
We've been typically doing it the first Wednesday at 4:30.
Yeah.
If that's still, works for people.
For the Open Space Committee itself,
Yeah.
or the work or the subgroup.
Oh, this is for our subgroup schedule?
I'm confused. I'm looking at it. I see two things on the agenda, but nothing in the packet. On the agenda, it lists regular meeting schedule, and then 7 is next steps in 2020 meeting.
Meeting
I think
dates.
that must be a confusion there between those two, because
I'm
we'll have
looking
one
at
more
the-
meeting.
I'm looking at
What's
the
that,
Open
Tom?
Space Committee page, and it says 2019 schedule.
I know. Yeah. Well, I think the subgroup thing has kind of been catch as catch can. So I would be surprised if the intention for us to set up an annual schedule right now. I think that's a glitch that it's on there for the full open space thing, and probably
I
will
agree.
next time.
I would agree, and that would go at that meeting next week. I believe is when they would just determine their 2021 schedule.
Right.
Okay, so that's not on our agenda. So that's good. So we can
It's just
skip.
a matter of identifying any kind of conflicts, because if you have a standard meeting time, just go over this schedule and see what adjusts for 2021 if we hit an election.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Agreed,
All right.
agreed.
But that's for the full committee, isn't it?
Yeah. I would think.
Yes.
All right, so that's it. Is there anything else we need to be discussing aside from the criteria for acquisition for open space and the sustainable grant? I mean, we're working on the habitat management parts. So we've got forest, we're looking at meadow, we're going to be looking at shrubland.
Susan.
Yes.
Yeah, so I wanted to backtrack to 2 things, and I had one thing to add. So I found a couple glitches in wording, like in one spot. I know this looks like a mess, but it says services instead of stewardship in one spot. So there's like a couple little tiny things that I found on this that I could maybe just and send to Maria or send to you guys. Would that be?
Yes. Please.
Okay, so I can do that. In terms of the 15-point thing, that document was pretty much finalized and presented to Open Space for any additional input in January. So we need to find the Open Space packet from January, get that document out, put it in the packet for the next Open Space Commission and say, you saw this in January, it was already passed by the subgroup. We gave it to you to look over, but it's been kind of like kicked down the curb, and just, that can be basically finalized at our next open space meeting. And then we can have the agricultural lease ready for the December meeting as kind of our main action items.
Susan, just to be clear, what the one from last January, is that the 15-point thing? Is that acquisition? Is that, I'm not sure what you're talking about.
Yeah, it's criteria.
For acquisition for open space.
Acquisition, yeah. Which is kind of like, what are the reasons why you would have open space? And I think it was 15, 16 things.
So is that all? That's all we need for that one?
I'm looking
Yeah, that's
at
all we
your,
need.
I don't
I'm
know.
looking at your January meeting, and it has like a level 1, level 2, level 3 document. There's a whole bunch of stuff in here. So there might be some in your January packet that's listed online.
Yeah, there was a bunch of additional stuff, but there was just literally a bulleted 15 list. Do you see that?
Okay. I believe so. I have.
I think it's in our packet.
Yeah, considering goals and objectives, would Simsbury's consider acquiring a property for open space purposes, the following will be considered, and you got a bullet list going right down.
Okay, excellent.
in
That's
January.
exactly what we already discussed. That's exactly what we already discussed a couple of times, and we sent to the full committee, not to just to say, here's a, here, take a look at it, see if you have any additions or edits. And then that was happened at that meeting. We were supposed to bring it back at the next meeting, but that's just not happened yet.
Yep.
So we can do that in November. The other thing that I want to put on the agenda, and I don't know if it's for this subcommittee or for the full committee, is I'm on the land trust listserv, and there's been a lot of discussion about how to handle issues with encroachment and dumping and other kind of not okay things going on in open space. And they have a lot of good language and attorneys that have worked on this whole thing. And I just want to say that I've gotten over the past little over a year, multiple calls or emails from people concerned about that on town land, particularly Belden Forest. I guess there's someone in there cutting up wood with a cart and taking it out. And they said that the town is totally okay with that. I wasn't there. And the person said, well, I don't think so, because this is kind of now in the old growth forest network. So there's that going on. There's a dumping issue. There's, I just think that having a policy about that, then nobody's the bad guy. It's just the policy. And we can clarify things. I mean, if people don't know where their border is or don't know they're not supposed to do it, then,
there is an ordinance against dumping on town property. That exists. It's been in letters where we've had to address where it's a neighbor, complaining about a neighbor, or it's been observed by town staff when they're mowing or something like that. There is a letter. I mean, Jerry Toner used to send out a letter, and it references a specific ordinance, I guess, is Tom, maybe it's what it's called, that addresses, and there's a potential fine as well. And typically the letter goes out, we give them a chance to clean it up. And if they don't, then the fine is implemented, or if they're cited, whatever. So that policy already exists. I mean, we could certainly call attention to it. We could reward it, but it's not like it's not there, I guess. But monitoring is the toughest part, because we have so much open space in this town. I mean, as you know, we can't possibly monitor every buffer, or every, a butter, to our open space. I mean, that's where I think with some of these other properties, when we get going, as we move forward over the next few years here, to establish either the friends of a certain property or a ranger program that Marjorie's been, both of you have been very supportive of. I would love to do something like that. And somebody is responsible for monitoring a trail or a piece of property, a couple of times a year or once a month, and reporting back if there's any issues. Those are things that would be helpful. We don't have the staff to have any kind of a monitoring program set up at this point. We catch it as we can, kind of thing.
What, Tom?
Yeah.
What's that,
A
Tom?
lot of times you'll find an investment from an abutter who would be willing to spend some time. It's kind of getting that friends of type situation, because the people who use the resource the most are the ones in the local area of it, and they tend to have the eyes and ears. May it be in the middle of the night or first thing in the morning type situation. So yeah, that it just needs to have a reporting avenue and an enforcement avenue. That's all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, related to that, so I figured it wasn't legal to dump stuff, but I just think that this could be another kind of policy to put more prominently on the town website and on the open space page.
Yeah.
So that there's no confusion about that. It's just so that it's not like letter by letter by letter. Everybody know what's going on. And then also, I did ask the scout troop that meets at First Church next to Belden Forest, and they're excited to be like the rangers or or whatever. So I've been kind of putting feelers out for like little groups that could help with these properties. And I think that could be another, agenda item to kind of formalize.
Get the agenda.
You're it, yes, that's your job now to do that. And then we can give them, what's supposed to be happening on the property. Like, depending on what the property is, we'll know what we're doing there. And then they can say, okay, this is consistent with it or not, so.
That'd be good. All right. So I think we've gone through the agenda. I don't see anything else. So we've got some things for next time. So I would say we need a motion to adjourn. We don't have a quorum, so we don't have a motion. How's that work? So, all right, I think that's
Subcommittee.
See ya.
that's it. All right. Thank you very much. All right. Bye-bye.
Have a
All right,
wonderful week.
awesome. Thanks,
Thank you all.
everybody.